How's it going, everybody? I'm Nick DiVirgilio, and this is Getting Started with Ableton Live. Ableton Live is a very powerful DAW that can be used as a live performance tool or as your typical recording DAW. And though it may look daunting, once you know where everything's at, it's really very easy to navigate. In this video, I'm going to take you through the basics of the different windows and views. Then I'm going to show you how to get going with your very first song. So let's get started. When you open up Live for the very first time, it opens up an empty song in the session view. And that's what I got going on right over here. There are two views in Ableton, the session view and the arrangement view. The arrangement view looks like this. But we're going to start in the session view. Before we get into those, I think it's really important to take you through the preferences page first. That's where you set up Ableton with your recording interface, your MIDI controller, the look, and many other things. To get to the preferences page, go over here to where it says Live. Click on that, and Preferences is right there. And this is the page that will open up. Let's start from the very top. Look and feel. There's a number of different things here, but I want to point you to the bottom over here. And this is where you can set up the different colors and views. Right now it's set on mid-dark, and this is kind of where I like it, but there's a few other ones you can go through. Live 9 is pretty bright. Dark, which I quite like a lot. Mid-dark, and so on. Set that where you like, and then you can also make adjustments for the brightness, the color hue, and so on. Next one down is audio. This is where you set it up with your recording interface. So you'll see right here, I have it set up already with my UA Apollo Twin over here. And this is also where you configure your outputs and inputs. So right now, it doesn't have anything configured for the inputs. It's grayed out. And that's because it says no device on the audio input. So I just scroll down to UA Apollo. Then when I hit the input config, it tells me how many inputs I can have to record with. Same with the output configuration, how many outputs I have on the Apollo Twin. Right down from that is your in and out sample rate. It's set to 48,000 hertz right now, which is a good middle of the road thing. The buffer size is where you set your latency, especially for the audio going into Ableton Live. Right now I have it set in the middle setting at 256 samples. There's not too much latency there at all. The lower you go, the less latency you'll have. So like when you play something on the keyboard, there will be no delay at all. You want to have a high buffer setting when you have a lot of stuff going on, like a lot of plugins, a lot of effects, all those things happening at the same time. The higher the buffer setting, the easier your computer will work. The next tab down is the link and MIDI, and that's where you set up your MIDI controllers with Ableton Live. You have some file and library hierarchies where you can set where you have your sounds placed in your computer, if you have a separate hard drive, that kind of thing. Same for your plugins. The one right down here, Record, Warp, Launch. This is a very important tab to know about. This is where you set up Ableton to know what kind of file you're going to be working with, whether it's a WAV or an AIFF, and the bit depth. And then right down below that is Warp and Fades. Now this is going to happen in another video. I'll take you through how to quantize and warp, but this is where you will set up those settings right here in your Preferences page. And the last tab is your licenses. So now that you know what's going on in the Preferences tab, let's get back into the session view. Let me show you around there. The session view is a great area to work on your song ideas. You can jam along and turn different elements on and off really easily. You can set up all the different sections of your song into scenes and play those scenes in any order you want in real time. It's a really cool and super unique feature. The arrangement view is set up more like your typical DAW, and to get over to that view, I'm just hitting the tab key on my keyboard. All right, that's the arrangement view right there. Now the parts move in the arrangement view in a linear fashion from left to right. And you could set up these parts to loop and you can jam over them just like you could in session view, but typically you let the song start at the beginning and go all the way to the end. But we're going to start in this video in the session view. So let me go back. The first thing I want to show you are all the triangles in the different areas and how they open and close different windows. The first one I want to show you is the bottom right corner. There's the triangle right there. When I click on it, it opens up the edit window. And that's where you edit your samples, your loops, and your MIDI. There's also another triangle on the bottom left. And this is a super important area. It's already open. It opens up automatically when you open the edit triangle, but you can also close it like that. What this window does and why it's so important is whenever you hover your cursor over anything in Ableton Live, it gives you a description of what that is you're hovering over in that little box. So in case you don't know what something is or you're confused about something, just open up that little window, hover the cursor over there, and it'll tell you exactly what it is. I will get more in depth with that description window in just a second here, but I want to show you now the top left triangle and what that does. the hub of everything inside of Ableton. This is your browser. All of your sounds, instruments, plugins, how to navigate to other folders on your computer are all in your browser. So as you can see, I'm clicking on different things here. Sounds, drums, instruments, your audio effects, your MIDI effects. Max for Live is a different thing we'll get into later, but it is also instruments and ways to program your own special effects that you can use in Ableton Live and for other outboard gear. It's a very powerful tool. All of your plugins, clips, and samples, all right there. And you can even make your own favorites by just dragging anything you like up into a favorites tab up here on the top left. Right below that are your places on your computer that you have different things. Packs are third-party programs that you can get on the Ableton website of all kinds of different things, from effects to instruments, sounds, what have you. Your user library, all of your different folders that you have on your computer desktop, you can customize that however you like. And finally, at the very top over here is your search bar, and I'll show you how that works once we start making our first song. Now that I've shown you around the browser a little bit, let's check out the main features of the session view. First thing I'm going to do is close the browser so I can get some more real estate here. First is the tap tempo, and next to that is the project BPM. Whatever that BPM is set to, any clip or loop you put into Ableton Live that is warped or quantized is going to play and lock to that BPM. The two buttons next to the project BPM are the tempo nudge buttons. Now, we're not going to get into these very much right now. Just know that Ableton Live is like an elastic program. You can speed up and slow down the computer to lock in with like a record player. Say you're a DJ and you have a record set up, you're doing a gig, and you have your computer and the turntables locked together. You can lock in the tempo by speeding up or slowing down the computer just enough to where it finds the tempo and then it'll stay there. It's a very cool feature. Next to that is your time signature, and your metronome is right next to the time signature. You'll also have this little triangle. You'll notice triangles are all over Ableton Live. Click on that triangle and you can set your count off, your rhythm. Say you want more than just a quarter note click track, you can set it to eighth notes, triplets, anything you want right in that window there. Next to that, where it says 1 bar, is the grid setup, and we can get into that later. Next, I want to let you know that I'm going to skip over a few of the buttons right now just to save time in this video because some are more advanced. But again, if you hover the cursor over anything in Ableton Live, it'll tell you exactly what it does. So the next thing I want to tell you about is the arrangement counter. Now, it's worth mentioning, you can have stuff going on in the arrangement view and in the session view at the same time, but you're not hearing them at the same time. There's a button you have to press to do that. This right here, this counter shows you what's going on where the timeline is set in the arrangement view. Next to that is your play, stop, and record buttons. Your MIDI overdub buttons, your record button for when you want to record clips. Next to that is your loop and your punch in and punch out buttons. This is an important thing to show you right here. These first numbers are where the loop's going to start. Next to that is your punch in, your loop button to tell it to turn the loop on, your punch out area, and then these next buttons over here are how long you want the loop to be. It's also worth noting if anything is grayed out, that means it's not turned on. So none of these things are turned on right now. Now it's going to punch in where I tell it to and punch out to where I tell it to because I turned those buttons on. Same with the loop button, which is right there. Next thing to tell you about is the pencil tool, and that's where you're going to be able to draw in MIDI notes when you're in that window. This next one is pretty cool. It is called the MIDI keyboard tool. When you click that on, you can use your computer keyboard as a MIDI keyboard. You can play notes with your computer keyboard if you have that turned on. Next to that is the key mapping button. You'll notice things turn orange. You could set different keys or buttons to do certain things inside of Ableton with that on. Next to that is the MIDI mapping button. Similar thing, I'll show you that once we start making our first song. Right next to that button is the percentage button, and that's telling you how hard your computer is working. And you can really see that getting up high when you have a lot of things going on at the same time. And the last little button over there on the top right is the D button. And that just tells you if you're going to overload your hard drive. Now, you heard me mention this earlier, that there's many ways to do the same thing inside of Ableton. In order to get over to the arrangement view, you can hit the tab button on your keyboard, or you can also hit this button right here. Go over to the arrangement view. You'll notice that the lines are going in a linear fashion. That means sort of arrangement view, like how the music would go in a linear fashion. To get back to session, you just hit the button right below it, and you're in session view. The lines go up and down like the clips are arranged in session view. The last thing I want to tell you about these little buttons around Ableton Live are the buttons over here on the bottom right. You'll see that they're turned on. I/O, these are your inputs. When I turn that off, all of the input settings go away. See they're back now? Now off. Really what these buttons do is turn things on and off to give you more real estate in order to work inside of Ableton, especially if you're just working on a laptop like here where you only have one small screen. The more real estate you have, the better. Now let's get into the faders, the ins and outs, panning and that kind of thing. These are your faders. You can expand and contract these by just going to the top of the fader and making it, that's as big as it'll go, or you can make it smaller. There's little triangles. There's the little triangles again, are the faders right here. That's the volume up and down. This is the channel on button. It's on right now. When it's grayed out, it is off. Just below that is the solo button, and that's where if you have other things going on and you hit that button, that's the only track you will hear. And finally, the button on the very bottom is your record arm button. Just above the volume faders are your send levels, and this is where you're going to send the signal of that particular track to whatever reverb, delay, any effect that you have. This is where you send the signal from. And lastly, we're almost done here, I promise. Your master output. Just above the master output is your monitor section. Input, auto, or off. And that's when you're going to be recording audio into Ableton. And just above that are your inputs. Right now it's on input number 2. You can have a stereo input, whatever you like. However you have your inputs set up inside the preferences page will show up right here. Over here on the right side are your master fader. That's the one on the far right. On the bottom right here is the level for the metronome. Just above the volume fader for the master fader is the master output. Q output, if you have a way to send a different signal out of a different pair of outputs, you set it up right there. And these are your 2 sends that come as a default when you open up Ableton Live, your reverb and your delay. This is where you have the volumes for those. I've showed you all those things on the outside of the screen, but it's in the middle of the window where all of the magic in Ableton happens. Ableton opens up with a default setting of 2 MIDI rows and 2 audio rows. And in these rows are clip slots. Now your clips can have anything from a single sample, an audio loop, a part you played on your MIDI keyboard, and you'll notice quickly in Ableton Live, once again, that there's many ways to do the same thing. For instance, say you want to have another MIDI track or another audio track. One way to make a new audio or MIDI track is go under Create, Insert Audio Track. Shows up right there. Another way to do the same thing is to right-click. Now on my Mac keyboard, I hold Control, click on the pad, this prompt comes up and I can insert audio track just like that. Or when you're dragging in a clip, whether it's a MIDI clip or an audio clip, when you drag it right into that blank part of the screen, it'll automatically make a new track for you. Okay, we're almost to the point where we're going to start making some music, and I know you want to get there quickly like I do. But first, let me show you a little bit of what's going on in the arrangement view. Hitting the tab button takes me over to arrangement. What I want to show you first off is that a lot of things are the exact same in this view, such as the edit window, your browser view, and all of those buttons on the outside of the screen. The triangle over here on the top left opens up your browser just like it did in session view. The triangle on the bottom right opens and closes your edit window just like it did in session view. And the triangle on the bottom left, your description window is still there in arrangement view. Close these things up to make a little more space. What you'll notice here is that everything is set up from left to right. And you'll see that when I put a piece of audio and I play it inside arrangement view. Next thing to check out is where the ins and outs and the volumes are inside of arrangement view. And that takes place over here on the right side of the screen. To turn the tracks on and off are right here. The solo button is just next to that, and the record arm is just next to that. So the buttons do the exact same thing. They're just placed in a different spot because it's in arrangement view. All your inputs and outputs are right here. Output right there. And those were your MIDI tracks, the 2 on top. The 2 audio tracks work the same way. Right here is your volume level. Here is your pan, solo button, record button, and so on. And finally, the master fader and the 2 sends that you have are down here on the bottom. You can expand those as well, just by dragging like that. All right, now you've put up with me talking about the views and the buttons and what everything does, but now you're saying to yourself, Nick, let's start making some music, and that's what we're going to do right now. Now, in order to keep this video a little bit less long, I've pre-picked some sounds and clips to get us started. Okay, now I'm back in session view. I'm going to go over to the browser where everything is located. Under clips, I'm going to find this drum loop that I found earlier, THMA, and it is drum loop, THMA number 6. Now, one thing I want to point out before I drag the loop over and show you how it sounds, You'll notice that the loop says it's 127 BPM. You can audition anything inside your browser by double-clicking on it, and you'll hear that sound. Let's try that first. In order to stop the audition, just hit the space bar and it'll stop whatever you're listening to. Okay, so that's the sound of the loop, and it says it's at 127 BPM, but my project BPM up here in the top left is at 125. If I put that at, say, 107, when I drag this loop over into one of the clip slots, it's going to play at 107, not at 127, what the loop says it is. If you want that loop to play at that exact tempo, you have to make sure your project BPM is set to the same number. All right, now let's put that loop and start making this song. You can do it a number of different ways, just like I've said it before, but what I'm going to do here is take the loop and just drag it into the big plain area over here, the blank area, and you can see that it's wanting to do something. Once I let go of my trackpad, the loop is there. You can put the loop in any of the slots you want. We're just going to start with the very top one. Let's hear what it sounds like. Hit the play button. Now it's worth noting here that the project tempo is set at 125. I can click on that, drag it down, slow down the tempo, and the loop will slow down as well. Or speed it up. Again, this is an elastic DAW, very cool. All right, I want to show you one other thing. When you double click on that clip, it opens up the edit window and you can see the loop right there. This is an audio loop, so you're looking at transients. If it was a MIDI loop, you'd see all the MIDI notes. There's a number of things you can do in here, and that will come at a later time in a later video, but I just wanted to show you where you can edit the clips you put into your clip slots. Okay, one more quick thing to show you while I'm here. I'm going to close the edit window. When you double click on the title bar up here, that opens up the original edit window, so you can drag and drop effects on top of whatever sound you have in the clip row, okay? So say you want to add, I don't know, a flanger to this. Just go to your audio effects, and I'll pick flanger. All you have to do is drag and drop. Now, that's going to have a flanger effect on it. This is really easy to do, as you can tell by just dragging and dropping. But if you're a beginner to Ableton Live, don't be afraid to drag, drop, double click on anything in the windows, okay? You can always go back and start a new song and start from the beginning. If you want to learn Ableton quickly, don't be afraid to dive right in the deep end and get your feet wet. Now, I don't want this flanger effect on this drum loop. If you want to erase it, just highlight it, hit delete, and it goes away. Now, I think this drum loop deserves a bass loop. Let's find that. So over in my clips, I pre-planned this out, so bass, S-T-U-Y is right there, and I'm going to drag that right over just like I did with the drum loop. There you go. Now that I have more than one clip going, if I want to play them all at the same time, I have to start the scene. Over here on the right side, it says master, and there's play buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are called scenes. This is where you can set up the different clips to play in different times and set up your songs like the verse, the chorus, the bridge, and you can play them in any order you want by starting the scene. So when I press play over here, both clips are going to start at the same time. But that doesn't mean you can only play the clips from the scene start. You can turn the clips on and off in any order you like in the main clip area. I'll show you that in just a few minutes. Before I add the next sound, I want to show you what these stop buttons do. Right here, at the bottom of the master scene list is the main stop button. When you hit this button, anything that's going on will stop. You'll notice that the play buttons went away. When I start a scene and I stop it with the space bar, the play buttons are still highlighted. They're basically in a holding pattern. If I hit the space bar again, they'll just start over. But if you want to stop everything and start from scratch, say something goes wrong and there is a skip in something, or just something's happening with the computer, you can stop everything by hitting the main stop button, and that stops everything. All right, now let's add another sound to our song. The next sound is going to come from the sounds category. Hit that. Ambient and evolving. Open that little thing up, and down here, it's called Drunken Flutters. I'm going to take this, drag it over to the blank area. Now I'm losing a little bit of real estate here. So what I want to do is shrink these tracks to make more space. Just grab the end, make it smaller. And also, I'm going to get rid of these default tracks just to make more space there as well. Highlight the track, hit the delete key, and it goes away. Okay, now back to my sound. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Now, since this is an instrument, I'm going to play this. You'll notice that the record arm button is already lit, and the sound is coming from this synthesizer right here in the edit window. That's where the sound is going to come from. Let's go for it. What I just recorded is playing back. Like I said earlier in the video a couple of times already, there's many ways to do the same thing. I'm going to erase what I just did and show you a different way to record. What I did that time was I played the scene, had the music that I already had in there going, and then when I was ready to record, I just clicked on the record button and it started recording immediately. But say you want to start right at the beginning. Start and stop your scene so your other tracks are in a holding pattern. You'll see that the play lights are on right now. Okay, those will be ready to go once I hit the space bar. When I hit the record button here, I'm going to have a 2-bar count off because that's what I set up over here in my metronome section. And as soon as that 2-bar count off goes, at bar 1, I'll start recording, just like this. I want to show you this one more time. I put those other clips in like the holding pattern, right? If I didn't have them in the holding pattern and I started to record this clip right from the beginning, the 2-bar count off would go and those other clips would not play like this. Let me demonstrate for you real quick. You're not hearing anything. That's because those other clips were not ready to go. Also, it's worth mentioning here, if you want to hear the metronome going, the click track in the background going, just make sure you turn the metronome and click track on by hitting this button right here. All right, so let's put that back. Start, stop. Now my clips are ready to go. Now the final way I want to show you how to record is to set up the length of the clip, okay? The way you do that is double-clicking on an empty clip slot and setting the length of how long you want to record for. Just down here below the word loop, says length. I'm going to type in the number 4, hit enter. Now this clip is going to be 4 bars long. Let's record. Hit the session record button. You'll get your 2-bar count off and you'll start. Now, in order to take it out of record so you don't keep overdubbing what you just did, just hit the record button while it's playing and it will take it right out of record. All right, now I want to add some drum parts to this. So I'm going to go over here back to my browser under drums. I'm going to search for the drum pack I already found, 64 Pads Penelope Kit. It's auditioning the sounds. Now, if I want to play those on my MIDI keyboard, just drag it over to the empty space. It opens up what is called a drum rack. Drum racks are like drum machines inside of Ableton. You'll see the drum rack right here where I have my cursor, and those are all of the different sounds that are in the drum rack, and you can play all of these sounds on your keyboard because the record arm button is on. Just like that, okay? Now for this drum part, I'm going to show you a couple other tips and tricks as well. Let's go. I'm going to start and stop the scene so I can get the other clips ready to go. In fact, I'm going to do it like this. I'm just going to hit play, and when I'm ready to record, I'll hit the record button inside the clip slot, and then I'll show you what to do after that. Here we go. First thing I want to do is turn the metronome off. I don't need to hear it. Okay, I hit the record button and it's already recording, but now I want to come here at bar 1. And I hit the record button again and it took it out of record. But you'll notice I had the clips already going before I started playing the drums on the keyboard. So that will make it so it doesn't start in the right spot. In order to fix that, it's super simple to do. Double click on the clip you just worked on. You'll see the MIDI notes down here at the bottom. But you'll notice I made those MIDI notes a little bit bigger by double clicking with the magnifying tool over here on the note names. Tip and trick for you right there. Tip and trick number 1. You'll notice here, this is your timeline on top here. I didn't start playing anything till beat number 4. If I start from the beginning, it'll sound like this. You won't hear any drums until that beat. That's in time, but that's not where I want it to start from. At the top of this edit window, there's 2 more triangles. Triangles rule in Ableton Live. The triangle here on the bottom is where it's going to start playing from. So let's move that triangle over to beat number 4. The top triangle and the blue line that goes next to it, the blue line corresponds to the color of the track. And you can change these colors however you want. This will be where the loop starts from. Now, I don't want the loop to start from beat 1. I want it to start from beat 4, just like the rest. You have to do the same thing for the end. If I play it from here, it'll play these beats, and it'll just keep playing with the empty space. So we don't want that. We want it to loop the 4 bars. So let's get to the play end. Take that triangle and bring it over to beat 8. Now that's 4 bars. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 4 bars. Same with the loop. Now it'll play at the right spot for 4 bars. Here we go. Also, one other tip and or trick to show you right here. Now that sounded like the drums were kind of in time, but if you want to get them exactly in time, you want to quantize those little bits. Hit Command A, where you highlight all of those notes. You can also do it where you just take your cursor and drag over all the notes to highlight them. Okay. Then right click in the space, go up to Quantize. Now, where you have your quantize settings at, it'll snap it to that grid. The quantize settings are right under the word quantize, and there you can set it to 16th notes, 8th notes, whatever grid you want, triplets, all of those kinds of things. But now, those drums are going to be exactly on the grid. Sounded pretty good. I think they're a tiny bit loud, so let's pull down the volume with this fader triangle right there. Now I want to add one more thing to our first little starter song here, and that's going to come from one of our packs. Once again, the packs are third-party programs that you can get on Ableton's website that give you more loops, sounds, instruments, all kinds of things. So in my packs, which are right under here in Places, I'm going to go to, I already had it opened up, electric keyboards, sound, suitcase piano, and the basic suitcase piano. I'm going to drag that over into the empty space, open up that instrument. It's already record armed. Here's the sound. Okay, let's play along. I'm going to double click on, I know I want this to be 4 bars long. So double click on the empty slot, make the length 4 bars. I'm good to go. Now hit my session record button. The count-off's going to start. I'm going to play my part. Here we go. See what I did? I made a mistake. I wanted you to see that. I did that on purpose, right? Wink, wink. I didn't have the other clips ready to go. I didn't have them in their holding pattern. I just was so rushed and I wanted to play for you right there. But that was a good thing to show you. So let me start over one more time. Erase what I just did. Start the scene. stop the scene. The clips are ready to go now. Okay. Double click on the empty slot. I'm going to make it 4 bars long and start recording. Now, while it's playing, you can do a lot of those quantizing things in real time. So the sound, it's kind of in time. Let's quantize it and set it to the grid. Right-click in the space. Quantize, it snaps all those parts of the grid, and it's perfectly in time. Okay, now I have a few clips in the clip slots, but it's just one scene. I want to show you how easy it is to move them around, duplicate them, and then turn it into sort of an arrangement. Here we go. First, I need some more space. So I'm going to close the browser out and give myself some more space. Now, one way to duplicate the scene is to go over to your main scene, number 1 here, right-click, hit duplicate. Now, all those clips are, that whole scene is duplicated. But you can also do the same thing over here with the clips individually. Highlight whatever clip you want. You can hit the Option key. Before I do this, I want to mention that I'm working on a Macintosh right here. If you have a PC at home, all of these shortcuts you can get in relatively the same way. You know, copy and paste, duplication, all that stuff is pretty easily done on a PC as well. But if I want to duplicate this particular clip, highlight it. On a Mac here, I can just hit Option, highlight the clip and drag down. It copies the clip. Or I can grab a clip, hit Command-C, that copies the clip, go to any other place in the slot, hit Command-V, it puts the clip there. So what I'm saying here is there's many ways, as in all of Ableton, to do the same thing. So let's make a little bit of an arrangement. I'm going to drag these open so they make a little more space here so you can see what's going on. Now, even though you have a lot of clips in your clip slots, you don't have to play them all at the same time. You can play one at a time if you want, and you don't have to start them from the main scene, master scene start over here. If I want to play this particular clip, just hit play. Plays that single clip. I want to start with the bass like that and this one drum loop. So I'm going to erase this clip from here, drag it down, make everything else empty. So now when I hit the master scene start for number 1, it's just the bass and the drums. All right, so to say that plays around once or twice, then I want to add the pad, the Drunken Flutters pad. Let's move the other ones out of the way. Now when you want to play the next scene, just hit the play button a little bit before the next time around of the loop cycle, which is 4 bars here, and it'll play the next scene automatically. Whenever you want to play something else, as long as you play it just before the downbeat of the next bar, it'll play that next scene and or clip, okay? That's how this happens. So let me show you that one more time. Now I can start the next scene right after 4 bars, or I can start in the middle if I want, as long as I start it before a downbeat. Next scene. I hit the play button just before the next downbeat. This time I'll do it in the middle of the 4 bars. See, it's sort of like skipped over. I hit the play button after the first bar. I'll count along with my fingers and show you what I mean. So again, as long as you hit the next play button before the downbeat of the next bar, it'll start playing at that point, okay? So now for the next section, I'm going to take out the little Rhodes sound I put in. I'm going to save that for last. Let's add the drum kit to the next scene. That means we have to copy down these other ones. This is what it sounds like. And for the final scene where I want everything to be playing at the same time, I have to make sure all those clips are in that scene, just like this. I'm just copying them down. I'm going to get rid of these just so we don't confuse ourselves here. This is what the last scene sounds like with everything going. So that means the song can go in any order you want. I started the song with the basic, just like bass and drums, then I added a little bit for the next scene, and so on and so forth. What you can also do here, like I said, is you can play these clips in any order you want at any time. So let's start with all of them going. Well, I want to turn the Rode sound off. Hit the stop button under that clip. Now that clip is not playing. You can do that the same thing with any of the other ones. But now say I decide I want the Rode sound to go again. Just start it right now. 1, 2, 3, go. Let's add back in the drums. So what I'm telling you here is you can jam along with the sounds and the clips and the different loops that you make or you drag in and just get creative with what you're hearing. Turn things on and off and you'll realize that, well, that could be a great verse or this could be a great bridge or so on, and then set up your master scenes in the order you want. One last trick I want to show you here is in the MIDI mapping. This is a really cool trick. Hit the button that says MIDI here. Now, anything that's lit up blue here, or kind of purple, can be put on a pad or on a note on your keyboard and turned on or off. So I'm going to hit the play button on scene number 1 here. I'm going to hit this A5 pad. That puts a number. You'll see it right there. Now, whenever I want that scene to start, all I have to do is hit that A5 pad. No matter where I am, say I'm in scene number 3 or scene number 4, and I want to go back to that other scene. That is a super cool tip and trick because you can set up your whole show like that. Start and stop different sections of songs, different clips, whatever you want by simply MIDI mapping different things to your MIDI keyboard. Now, I know we've spent most of this video here in the session view, but it's super easy to take everything you do in session view and bring it over into the arrangement view once you have your song ready to go and you just want to play it from top to bottom. You can do one clip at a time or multiple clips at a time. Let me show you one first. Highlight that clip. Hold down on the clip. I'm holding it down on my trackpad with my thumb. I hit the tab button, and now that clip is right there. Okay? Let's go back to the session view. If you want to do multiple clips, just highlight multiple clips. I have them all highlighted here. Same thing, hold down with your mouse or my trackpad. Hold the tab button. Now it brings all of those clips. But what happens here is, say you have, in this instance, 4 clips in the session view from top to bottom. Okay? In session view, one clip's just going to play from beginning to end and loop around. When I bring all 4 of those clips into arrangement view, it puts them back to back, plays them from left to right. So once it gets to the end of those 4 clips, which would be 16 bars, it'll just keep going. You won't hear the loop anymore, right? It's not looping back to back like it does in session view. Let me erase those, go back to session view, and show you that you can bring over multiple clips in multiple tracks over to the arrangement view. Now just highlight all of them and do the same thing. I'm highlighting all of them by dragging up and then dragging across just to make sure everything is highlighted. Hold down on the trackpad, hit the tab button, and bring it in. Now, once you're in arrangement view, if you want to turn things on or off or just erase certain sections, just grab one of those clips, highlight it, hit the delete key, it'll turn it on and off. If you want to duplicate it, you can do the same thing by hitting copy and then going to where you want it to go and hit paste that way. On my Mac here, I can hold down the option key, hold that clip, drag, it copies it over that way. You can do multiple clips at a time, anything like that to where you want to duplicate and just make the arrangement however you want. Build your chorus, build your bridge, build your verse, and have it play from left to right, top to bottom. All right, everybody, that brings us to the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this crash course on how to get started with Ableton Live. It's such a fun and deep DAW. I highly recommend just diving in and watch your creativity go to the next level. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks a lot for watching this video. If you have any comments or questions about Ableton Live, make sure you leave them in the comments section. Also, like and subscribe to our channel. Click right here for more videos just like these, or go to sweetwater.com for all your music instrument and pro audio needs.